Everyone who entered found peace, but never returned. In the days when the wind still carried the voices of ancestors across the red plains, there stood a road no traveler loved, but all were forced to walk. It cut through the dry savanna like a scar, lonely, endless, and unforgiving. Merchants passed there with tired donkeys. Pilgrims shuffled across it with blistered feet. Orphans followed it in search of towns that might show mercy. And sometimes wanderers disappeared along it, swallowed by dust storms or hunger or silence. The elders of nearby villages used to say, "A road without shade teaches a man how small he is," and this road had no shade. Until the stranger came. He arrived one evening as the sun bled orange across the horizon. No one saw where he came from. He simply appeared beside the road, standing still, watching the sky as though waiting for permission from something unseen. He was neither young nor old. His face bore no tribe's marks. His eyes, however, carried a quiet knowing, deep and reflective like a river at night. And by the time the next moon rose full and silver, a house stood where there had been nothing. Not a hut, not a tent, a house. Its walls were smooth and pale like polished stone. Its roof curved gently like cupped hands. Wide wooden doors welcomed the weary. Smoke rose from its chimney, though no one had seen anyone gather firewood. Lamps glowed in its windows even when the wind was harsh. Inside, there were soft mats, woven blankets, bowls of steaming stew, fresh bread, sweet water, and a warmth that felt like forgiveness. The first to enter was a trader named Kamau. He had been walking for 2 days without rest. His feet were swollen, his supplies nearly gone. When he saw the house in the distance, he believed it a mirage, but the smell of food was real. He approached cautiously. The door opened before he knocked. The stranger stood inside. "You look tired," the stranger said gently. Kamal swallowed. "I have little coin." "You need none." Inside, Kamal found comfort he had not known since childhood. The stew tasted like home. The water cooled his bones. The blankets erased the ache from his back. He slept without dreams. When morning came, sunlight streamed through the windows and his strength had returned fully, as if he had never suffered at all. The stranger stood by the door. "You are safe here," the stranger said. Kamal smiled, deeply moved. "You are a blessing. Thank you." The words were simple, grateful, harmless. The stranger's smile lingered just a second too long. Kamal never reached the next village. Days passed. Then came a widow named Abena, fleeing famine. She entered trembling, clutching her child. She was given rice, milk, rest, and a bed softer than any she had known. Her tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "May the ancestors reward you. Thank you, thank you." Her child laughed again for the first time in weeks. They never left either. But no one noticed at first. The road was long. Travelers often disappeared. And the house grew more beautiful. Its walls seemed to shine brighter with each visitor. The air within felt sweeter. The fire never died. The food never ran out. Whispers began in nearby villages. "There is a house of mercy," people said. "A stranger with kind eyes shelters the lost. The spirits have answered our suffering." Soon, more travelers sought it deliberately. Some arrived desperate, some arrived curious. All were welcomed, and every single one said the same thing before sleep took them: "Thank you." And every single one was never seen again. Months later, a young hunter named Sefu noticed something others had not. He was sharp-eyed and patient, taught by the forest to observe what others ignored. He had seen 3 men from his village set out along the red road during the planting season. None had returned. When Sefu followed their path, he found no bones, no torn cloth, no signs of struggle. Only footprints, many footprints, all leading toward the pale house, none leading away. He crouched near the entrance, fingers brushing the earth. The soil was disturbed, yes, but strangely, as though the ground itself resisted remembering departures. The door creaked open. The stranger stood there once more. "You look tired," he said. Sefu's eyes flicked past him, scanning the interior. He saw warmth, safety, peace. But something beneath it felt wrong. Not loud, not obvious, just still, too still. "I hunt," Sefu replied calmly. "I rest in trees." The stranger smiled. "Even trees bow to shelter when storms grow strong." Sefu hesitated. The air smelled of roasted meat. His stomach growled. He had been walking all day. "You may leave whenever you wish," the stranger added softly. The words floated like silk. Sefu stepped inside. The door closed. The house embraced him. The food was rich. The mats were soft. The air carried the scent of lavender and wood smoke. He noticed paintings on the walls, strange swelling shapes that looked almost like faces pressed into plaster. He ran his fingers over them. The surface felt warm, like skin. He pulled his hand back quickly. That night, he did not sleep deeply. In the darkness, he thought he heard something. Whispers, soft, faint, like wind passing through cracks, or like breath caught inside walls. He opened his eyes. The room was still, but he felt watched. Morning came again with gentle sunlight. The stranger stood by the doorway. "You are safe here." Sefu nodded slowly. "I should continue my journey." "Of course," said the stranger. Sefu walked toward the door. He reached for the handle and paused. A heaviness filled his chest. Not pain, not fear, but something else. Contentment, deep, overwhelming. A voice within him whispered, "Why leave?" He had never known such comfort, never such fullness, never such peace. He turned slightly. The stranger's eyes gleamed. "Rest longer. You deserve it." Sefu swallowed. He thought of his village, of his mother, of the men who had vanished. He shook his head. "I thank you for your kindness." The moment the words left his mouth, the walls trembled, just slightly. So slight that another man might have dismissed it, but Sefu felt it. The paintings pulsed faintly. The air grew thicker. The stranger's smile deepened, and for a fleeting second, just a blink, Sefu saw something behind the man's reflection in the window. Shadows. Many shadows, pressed flat, like hands against glass, watching, waiting. The door did not open when Sefu pulled it. He tried again. It would not move. The stranger stepped closer. "You said thank you." His voice was softer now, almost tender. "And gratitude," he whispered, "is a powerful thing." The walls exhaled, and somewhere within them, something sighed. The door did not open. Sefu pulled harder, muscles tightening beneath his skin. The wooden frame did not shake. The hinges did not groan. It was as if the door had fused with the wall itself, grown from it like bone. Behind him, the stranger's footsteps were slow and unhurried. "You need not struggle," he said gently. "The house does not respond to force." Sefu turned. The warmth that had once felt welcoming now pressed against his lungs. The air tasted sweet, too sweet, like fruit left too long in the sun. "You said I may leave," Sefu replied, steadying his voice. "And you may," the stranger answered calmly, "when you no longer belong to it." Sefu's brow tightened. "Belong?" The walls shivered faintly, like something alive, shifting in sleep. The paintings he had touched earlier seemed clearer now. He stepped closer to one. The swirl of color was not random. It curved inward, forming shapes that resembled eyes, mouths, fingers reaching. A faint whisper slid from the plaster. "Stay." He jerked back. The stranger clasped his hands behind his back. "This house is built from an ancient understanding," he said. "Travelers come broken. The world is cruel. I offer them rest, food, safety, warmth. Is that wrong?" Sefu did not answer. "You hunters speak of balance," the stranger continued. "When you take a life from the forest, you offer thanks to the spirit of the animal. Gratitude binds hunter and prey." "That is respect," Sefu said sharply. "And this," the stranger replied softly, "is no different." The floor beneath Sefu's feet hummed. Suddenly, the air thickened again, and from the walls came clearer sounds, murmurs, faint sobbing, laughter that did not belong to this moment, a child's giggle, Kamal's deep voice, Abena's trembling whisper. Sefu's chest tightened. "Where are they?" he demanded. The stranger gestured calmly to the walls. "They are here, at peace." The surface rippled. Faces emerged, not fully, just impressions like memories pressed into clay. Eyes closed, expression serene. They are not in pain. They no longer hunger. They no longer fear storms. They no longer walk roads without shade. "You trapped them," Sefu growled. "I gave them what they desired most." The whispering grew louder. "Thank you. So warm, so safe." Sefu pressed his hands over his ears. "Gratitude is powerful," the stranger said. "When spoken sincerely, it binds the spirit. Their words gave themselves willingly." "They did not know," Sefu shouted. "Does the ant know the strength of the earth when it digs?" the stranger asked softly. The house paused again, stronger this time. Sefu staggered slightly. He felt it now. Not ropes, not chains, but threads. Invisible strands tightening around his chest where the words had left him. "I thank you." The phrase echoed inside his mind, and with each echo, warmth seeped deeper into his bones. His anger dulled. His resistance softened. The house was not forcing him. It was reminding him how good it felt. The stranger stepped closer. "You are tired, Sefu," he said, speaking the hunter's name for the first time. Sefu's heart jolted. "How do you know?" "I know all who enter," the stranger interrupted. "Your mother worries for you. Your village doubts you. You carry burdens you never speak aloud." The walls murmured in agreement. Sefu's jaw tightened. "Stay," the stranger whispered. "Hunt no more. Wander no more. Be free from expectation." The house brightened. The fire crackled invitingly. The smell of roasted goat filled the air again. Sefu swayed. For a moment, just one, he imagined it. No more long roads, no more drought seasons, no more watching elders grow thin. Just warmth, just rest, just peace. The walls shimmered softly as though smiling. Stay. Then he heard something else, faint, strained. Help. It was not content. It was not peaceful. It was buried beneath the others. A different voice. Abena's child. Sefu's eyes snapped open fully. He focused past the sweetness, past the comfort. He saw cracks in the plaster. Tiny, barely visible, and within them, movement, like insects trapped in amber. The spirits were not at rest. They were suspended, preserved, fed upon. "You are not feeding them," Sefu said slowly. The stranger's expression did not change. "You are feeding on them." For the first time, silence fell completely. The warmth flickered. The stranger's eyes darkened, just slightly. "Every home needs strength to stand," he replied evenly. "Gratitude nourishes the foundation. And when it fades," the stranger's smile returned, but thinner. "I build again." The meaning settled heavily between them. New travelers, new thanks, new bindings. Sefu's chest burned. The threads tightened further as the house sensed his rising defiance. The air thickened once more. The whispers grew desperate. "Don't leave! It hurts when they try. Stay!" The pleas were no longer soothing. They were warnings. Sefu stepped backward, pressing his hand against the wall deliberately. He closed his eyes. He did not thank it. He did not curse it. He breathed slowly, recalling the teachings of the forest. When caught in vines, do not pull wildly. Find the root. His gaze shifted to the stranger. "You are the root." The stranger's head tilted. "I am the keeper. You are the heart." The walls trembled harder now. A crack formed near the ceiling. Dust drifted down. The stranger's calm wavered for the briefest second. "You misunderstand," he said quietly. "No," Sefu replied. "You need them. Their words feed you. Their gratitude gives you form." The air around the stranger shimmered. His edges blurred. The house groaned deeply. Sefu's heartbeat pounded. "If no one thanks you, you weaken." The stranger's smile vanished completely. "You will not leave," he said, voice no longer warm. The walls surged inward. The threads around Sefu's chest tightened painfully. He fell to one knee. The spirits in the walls cried out, some in comfort, some in agony. The house was no longer gentle. It was hungry. And Sefu realized something terrifying. The house did not simply trap those who thanked it. It needed fresh gratitude frequently. Without it, the walls cracked. Without it, the keeper faded. Without it, it starved. The stranger's voice deepened unnaturally. "You spoke the words," he said. "You belong." Sefu gasped for breath. His vision blurred. The threads dug into his ribs. The house inhaled sharply. And then, from outside, a knock, soft but unmistakable. Both Sefu and the stranger froze. Another traveler had arrived. The house shuddered with anticipation. The stranger slowly turned toward the door. His composure returned like a mask slipping back into place. "You see," he whispered, "the road always provides." Sefu's pulse raced. If the newcomer entered, if they said those words, the house would strengthen. The spirits would sink deeper, and he would lose his chance forever. The door began to open. Light from the dying sun spilled in. A silhouette stood beyond the threshold, weak, leaning on a staff, and desperate. The stranger smiled once more. "You look tired," he began softly. Sefu gathered what strength remained. He had one chance, and it would cost him something. The figure at the doorway swayed like a reed in wind. It was an old woman, her back bent beneath years and hunger. Her wrapper was torn by thorns. Dust clung to her bare feet, cracked and bleeding. Around her neck hung a small leather pouch, the kind diviners carried to hold charms and powdered roots. Her eyes, however, were sharp. They flicked from the stranger, to the glowing walls, to Sefu kneeling on the floor. The stranger's smile spread like oil across water. "You look tired," he said gently. "Enter, rest, no coin is required." The old woman stepped forward slowly. Sefu forced himself upright despite the crushing threads tightening around his ribs. "Do not," he rasped. The stranger did not turn, but the air around him thickened in warning. The old woman's gaze narrowed. "I was told of this house," she said, voice dry but steady. "A house of mercy." "It is messy," the stranger replied smoothly. "Ask him." His head tilted slightly toward Sefu. The walls pulsed again, pressing warmth into Sefu's mind. The threads tightened, urging him to surrender, to speak softly, to thank again and dissolve into peace. But Sefu locked his jaw. The old woman stepped fully inside. The door closed behind her. The house sighed in satisfaction. The smell of roasted meat swelled in the air. Water shimmered in bowls on a low table. A woven mat appeared near the hearth. "You have walked far. Eat, drink, sleep." The woman did not move toward the food. Instead, she reached into her leather pouch and drew out a small handful of white powder. She let it fall between her fingers on the floor. It did not settle. It drifted upward, as though the air beneath it breathed. Her sharp eyes lifted slowly. "This house," she murmured, "has a pulse." The stranger's smile did not falter, but something in his gaze cooled. "It stands strong because it is loved." The woman's gaze shifted to Sefu again. "Child, what binds you?" Sefu swallowed. "Gratitude." The word tasted bitter now. The old woman's expression did not change, but her fingers tightened slightly around her pouch. The walls whispered again. "Safe here. Stay with us. Thank you." The voices layered over one another in eerie harmony. The old woman closed her eyes briefly. Then she spoke in a low chant, soft but deliberate. The language was ancient, older than village borders, older than names. It vibrated in the air like distant drums. The walls shuddered violently. Cracks deepened along the ceiling. The stranger's calm finally broke. "Stop," he said sharply. The old woman's eyes opened. "You feed on thanks," she said. The house groaned. Sefu felt the threads around his chest pulse angrily. The stranger's form flickered for a fraction of a heartbeat, his shadow stretching unnaturally long against the wall. "You misunderstand," he replied through clenched teeth. "I give shelter." "You harvest surrender," she corrected. The old woman stepped toward the wall and pressed her palm flat against it. The plaster softened beneath her touch, and a face pushed outward clearly for the first time. Kamau. Eyes open now. Not peaceful, trapped. His mouth moved silently. The old woman leaned closer. "Forgotten my name," the whisper scraped faintly from the wall. Sefu's heart pounded. "They are fading," he breathed. The stranger's voice deepened, echoing strangely now, as though layered with another beneath it. "They are eternal." "They are consumed," the woman replied. She turned sharply to Sefu. "You must not speak gratitude again," she said firmly, "not even in your heart." The threads tightened at her words, biting into his chest. The house sensed rebellion. The stranger's voice rose. "You both stand within my walls." The floor trembled violently. The bowls on the table shattered. The fire flared high, licking the ceiling. The house no longer pretended gentleness. It was aware, angry, hungry. The old woman did not retreat. She drew a small carved token from her pouch, a wooden symbol shaped like an eye within a circle. She pressed it against Sefu's chest. The thread sizzled where it touched. Pain shot through him, but with it came clarity. The warmth that had dulled his senses receded slightly. "You see it now," she said. "Yes," he whispered. The stranger's form flickered more violently. His face stretched, just briefly, into something elongated, hollow-eyed, ancient. "You think you can starve me," he hissed. The walls screamed. Not metaphorically, they screamed. The trapped voices rose in chaotic chorus. "Don't break it. It hurts. Freedom. Please." The old woman's jaw tightened. "To break it is to break them," she murmured. Sefu's stomach twisted. If they destroyed the house, what would become of the spirits bound within? The stranger laughed suddenly, a hollow echoing sound. "You see the dilemma," he said smoothly, regaining composure. "Burn me and you burn them. Leave me and they remain at peace." The old woman's silence stretched. Sefu's thoughts raced. There had to be another way. The woman's eyes flicked toward the doorway, then to the roof, then back to the stranger. "You require gratitude freely given," she said, slowly. "Yes." And without it, the house trembled again. The stranger's edges blurred, his voice thinned slightly. "You endure." "Barely," she whispered. Sefu understood suddenly. "You are strongest when they thank you, but if someone stays without thanking you, The stranger's gaze snapped at him sharply. The old woman nodded once. To live here and deny the house its food. The stranger's expression darkened into something almost feral. You would condemn yourself. Sefu looked at the faces in the walls. Kamau, Abena, the child. Others he did not know. Some weeping, some barely conscious. The house pulsed violently, sensing decision. You cannot hold forever, the stranger warned. Comfort breaks even the strongest. Sefu breathed slowly. The warmth tempted him again. Rest, safety, freedom from struggle. The house whispered sweetly once more. Stay, just stay. He met the old woman's eyes. If I stay, he asked quietly, can they weaken? She nodded slowly. But it will take time. How long? Long enough to test your soul. The stranger stepped closer. His face no longer kind. His voice no longer warm. You will beg to thank me, he said softly. And when you do, you will feed me more richly than any before. Sefu swallowed. He looked at the door. Freedom lay beyond it, but so did more travelers, more victims. He turned back toward the walls. I will stay, he said quietly. The house exhaled deeply. The old woman closed her eyes in sorrow. But I will not thank you. The stranger smiled, slow and dangerous. We shall see. The walls pulsed, and somewhere within them a faint flicker of hope stirred. The house did not rage. It did not collapse. It did not throw Sefu against the walls as it had moments before. Instead, it grew gentle again, terribly gentle. The fire lowered itself into a calm glow. The shattered bowls reformed whole. The cracks in the ceiling sealed as though they had never existed. Even the air softened into a fragrant warmth that wrapped around Sefu like a mother's embrace. The stranger straightened his robe slowly. So, he said quietly, you choose to stay. Sefu nodded once, but not to surrender. A thin smile curved across the stranger's lips. Everyone says that at first. The old woman stood near the doorway. Her eyes held both pride and sorrow. You must guard your tongue, she warned Sefu softly. Gratitude does not always speak aloud. It hides in thought. Sefu inhaled slowly. He understood. The house did not merely feed words. It fed on feeling, on relief, on the deep exhale of safety after fear, on the warm swell of appreciation when suffering ends. The stranger stepped aside with a graceful gesture. So, he said quietly, you choose to live here. Eat, rest, enjoy what I provide. Sefu did not respond. He moved toward the mat deliberately and sat down. He did not praise its softness. He did not admire the warmth. He did not acknowledge the comfort. He simply sat. The old woman's gaze lingered on him one final time. I cannot remain, she said quietly. The house will not trap me. I have given it nothing. The stranger's eyes flickered with irritation. Go then, he replied smoothly. She stepped backward toward the door. It opened easily for her. Before leaving, she locked eyes with Sefu. Remember who you are. Then she was gone. The door closed. Silence followed. The house watched. Hours passed. Sefu ate the food placed before him, but without reverence. He chewed mechanically, refusing to savor. When warmth wrapped around him at night, he did not sink into it. He endured it. The house whispered constantly, Is it not good? You are safe. Why resist peace? Sefu ignored it. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the house began to change. The fire flickered more often. The food appeared less lavish. The air lost a hint of sweetness. The stranger's face grew sharper, shadows forming under his eyes. You deny yourself joy, he said one evening, standing before Sefu. I deny you sustenance, Sefu replied evenly. The stranger's calm cracked for a breath. "You think you are strong," he murmured, "but comfort a roadstone. You are flesh." The house intensified its tactics. It showed Sefu visions, his mother thin and weeping, his village suffering drought, children crying for food. "You could leave," the house whispered gently. "Bring others, save them, let them rest." The temptation cut deep. If he brought his village here, they would eat, they would sleep, they would be safe forever. But at what cost? He clenched his fists. The walls pulsed weakly now. The faces within them flickered more clearly, less flattened, less preserved. Kamal's eyes opened fully one night. "They are loosening," he whispered faintly. Hope surged through Sefu, but he crushed it quickly. Hope could become gratitude. Gratitude could become surrender. The stranger staggered slightly the next morning. His once smooth form wavered at the edges like smoke. "You are cruel," he hissed. Sefu rose slowly. "No," he said. "You are hungry." The house trembled violently. Cracks spidered across the walls again, but deeper this time. The trapped spirits cried out, not in pain now, but in awakening. The stranger's voice deepened into something ancient and raw. "You would destroy them with me," he roared. Sefu hesitated. That doubt, that flicker. The house lunged for it. Warmth flooded him suddenly, overwhelming and beautiful. The fire roared back to life. The air filled with music, soft drums, laughter, celebration. The walls shimmered with golden light. "You have endured long enough," the house cooed. "Rest now. Just one word, one breath of thanks, and all will be well." Sefu's knees weakened. His body ached from resisting comfort for so long. Tears filled his eyes unexpectedly. He was tired, so tired. The stranger stood before him now, no longer pretending. His face shifted between human and something hollow, rib-like shadows stretching beneath translucent skin. "Whisper, say it." The walls leaned inward. The spirits trembled. "Don't," Kamal's voice scraped weakly. Sefu's lips parted. The word formed in his throat. The warmth wrapped tighter. Then a memory surfaced, his father's voice. "A man who kneels to comfort forgets how to stand in truth." Sefu slammed his fist against his chest. "No!" The word cracked through the room like thunder. The warmth shattered instantly. The house screamed. The cracks split wide. Light poured through them, not firelight, but something brighter, purer. The spirits within the walls began to pull away from the plaster. The stranger staggered backward. "You will kill us all!" he shrieked. Sefu felt it now, the structure failing, the foundation trembling. The spirits were bound to the walls. If the house collapsed suddenly, they could shatter with it. He understood the final choice. Burn it. End it swiftly. Free them or scatter them forever. Or remain. Continue starving it slowly until the bindings loosened fully. But the house was unstable now. It would not survive much longer without feeding. The stranger's form flickered violently, splitting between shapes. "Choose!" he roared. Flames burst from the hearth, climbing the walls. The trapped spirits screamed, not in fear, but in fragile hope. Sefu stood at the center of it all, fire behind him, cracking walls before him, the stranger lunging weakly towards him. Outside the windows, wind howled across the red road. The decision had come, and whatever he chose, there would be no turning back. The fire climbed hungrily along the walls, licking at the cracks that split the house like broken ribs. The spirit wailed, not in terror, but in trembling anticipation. Sefu stood at the center of the trembling floor, heart pounding like a war drum. Before him, the stranger staggered, his form flickering between man and hollow shadow. His voice was no longer smooth. "If you burn it," he rasped, "they may not survive the tearing." Behind Sefu, flames roared higher. Above him, the ceiling splintered. Within the walls, faces pressed outward, no longer peaceful, no longer preserved, but awakening. Kamal's eyes met Sefu's. "Free," he whispered. Sefu understood then. The house had never been built of stone. It was built of surrender, and surrender only held power while believed in. He looked at the stranger, this keeper of comfort, this weaver of gratitude. "You did not give peace," Sefu said, voice steady despite the shaking earth. "You replaced struggle with captivity." The stranger lunged weakly. Sefu did not strike him. Instead, he walked toward the hearth. He lifted a burning beam. The heat scorched his palms. The house shrieked as if it possessed lungs. "You could live forever in warmth," the stranger cried. "No hunger, no pain, no loss." Sefu paused only for a heartbeat. Comfort tempted him one final time. Soft beds, endless food, a life untouched by hardship. But he remembered the road, the wind, the sun, the ache of walking freely beneath an open sky. He remembered his father's words. A caged bird with golden seed is still a prisoner. With a final breath, he drove the burning beam deep into the largest crack in the wall. Flame exploded outward. The house convulsed violently. The walls split wide. Light, blinding and pure, poured from within. The stranger screamed as his form unraveled into ash and smoke. And then the faces tore free. Not broken, not scattered, released. Like breath finally exhaled after too long held. Spirits rose in shimmering currents of pale light, lifting through the collapsing roof into the open sky. Kamau, Abena, the child, dozens more. Their expressions were no longer trapped. They were grateful but not bound. The house crumbled inward with a final thunderous roar, collapsing into a heap of smoking rubble. Silence followed. The red road lay bare once more. Sefu stumbled from the ashes, burned but alive. Behind him, nothing remained but charred earth. The wind swept across it gently, as if erasing memory. By dawn, travelers would pass again. They would see no house, only open road. Sefu turned toward the horizon. The journey would be hard. There would be hunger. There would be storms, but there would also be freedom. And freedom, he now understood, is worth every blister. As he walked, the wind carried a whisper, not from walls, but from sky. Not binding, not consuming, simply blessing. And in the quiet of the morning, Sefu spoke, not to a house, not to comfort, but to the ancestors watching above. "I give thanks for struggle, for it keeps the soul awake." And this time, nothing claimed him.